Welcome back to Navigating Possibility. I'm your host, Dr. Christina Adams. In today's episode, we're talking about burnout, but maybe not in the way you're used to hearing about it. This episode is based on the book Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagasaki. I first read this book when I was living in a rental house while building my current house in 2021. Yes, we made the brilliant decision in late 2020 to build a new house and sell our old one, which is why the words supply chain still cause me to cringe. I was living in boxland. A third of my house was in boxes in the garage, and my dining room in the rental, that we lovingly called the hovel, was filled with boxes, as well as my dining room table and a piano. My cats were climbing all over the boxes, leaving litter and hair stuck in the tape and chewing on the corners of the boxes. It was the end of the pandemic. All my community connection opportunities that I had been using to relieve my stress through connecting with friends were happening over Zoom instead of in person. We even did a wine tasting at the kitchen table that year over Zoom with a winery in Oregon. My ACOG advocacy conference that year was over Zoom. I'd sit in a chair in my bedroom with my computer propped up on a rickety plastic computer stand in my lap to be on Teams calls for the administrative job I was doing in my OBGYN group. In short, I was a little fried. And at the time, I thought I was just tired and overwhelmed. What I didn't understand yet was that my body had been stuck in an incomplete stress cycle for years, and this situation wasn't helping anything. And then I read this book, and it completely reframed what burnout actually is and why so many capable, caring, high-achieving women feel like they're failing at life. And I want to say this clearly at the start. If you're exhausted, cynical, numb, or fantasizing about quitting medicine altogether, it's not because you're weak or ungrateful or because you're bad at self-care. It's because your stress cycle is incomplete. And no one ever taught you how to complete the stress cycle. So you just continue to carry the stress in your body, and it weighs you down like multiple layered suits of armor. Stress is not the problem we think it is. Most of us think burnout comes from too much stress, too many patients, too many portal messages, too many EMR clicks, too many nights on call. So we try to manage stress by being more efficient, optimizing our workflows, cutting corners in our personal lives to have more time to work, telling ourselves we should just be tougher, suck it up, buttercup. You know, how we're trained in medical school and residency to manage stress. But here's the core insight of the authors of this book. Stressors are not the same things as stress. Stressors are the external demands, the EMR, the never-ending labs and messages and chart deficiencies, which is the worst word ever used to describe a task you need to complete, prior authorizations, staffing shortages, high stakes, life or death decision making, moral distress from seeing patients who need care and can't afford to access it. Those are the external demands or the stressors. Stress, on the other hand, is what happens inside your body when you face those things. It's the autonomic, physiologic, nervous system, amygdala hijacking that happens when you face stressors. And here's the part most of us never learned. Your body doesn't automatically return to baseline just because the workday ends. You don't complete the stress cycle by finishing your charting and driving home for the day. The stress cycle is a biology problem. It's not a mindset problem. So from a biological perspective, stress is meant to be temporary. Imagine our ancestors being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. Stress hormones rise when they realize they're in danger of being eaten. Exactly what's supposed to happen because it shunts blood to muscles and away from the core. It increases heart rate, and it allows them to be able to run or fight or survive whatever was coming at them. Then they run away or fight their attacker. They survive, and there's a physiologic reset. The stress cycle is completed. But our modern day physician stress doesn't resolve that way. You finish a brutal shift or you deal with a patient trying to bleed to death on you, a common OB occurrence. And then you sit down to check your inbox and your Epic chat messages to see what you missed while you were busy saving a life. You replay difficult cases, wondering what you could have or should have done differently. You worry about patient outcomes. You sit by your patient's bed to make sure they're doing okay. You go in and you check on them in an hour or two. You follow the labs to see if their post-op hemoglobin means they need a transfusion. What's her urine output? Did that fluid bolus bring her heart rate down? If you go home in the morning after sign out, you may log back in to see how they're doing later that afternoon. I call that stalking the chart, and I have a name for it because I may or may not be an expert at it. You brace for tomorrow's office day. You look ahead at your patient list to prepare yourself or ruminate about what's coming your way tomorrow. So your body just stays in stress physiology. And the Nagaskis, the authors of this book, are very clear about this. Burnout happens when stress activation is chronic without completion. Not because you care too much, but because your body never gets the signal that it's safe for you to stand down. And women physicians are especially vulnerable. So the book focuses on women. Women are more likely to internalize failure, feel responsible for other people's emotions, perform emotional labor without recognition, experience a chronic condition the authors call human giver syndrome. So human giver syndrome is the idea that you should give endlessly, your needs come last, and if you're struggling, you just need to try harder. The quote from the book is that human giver syndrome is, quote, the contagious belief that you have a moral obligation to give every drop of your humanity in support of others, no matter the cost to you, end quote. And they say that human giver syndrome thrives in the patriarchy the way mold thrives in dark basements. Does this sound familiar? I mean, medicine already asks for self-sacrifice, and women physicians are socialized and expected to give even more. So instead of asking what's wrong with the system, we ask what's wrong with me. That question is poison. Burnout isn't fixed by vacations or bubble baths. One of my favorite and most validating points in this book is this: you can take a vacation and come back just as depleted, because stress completion requires physiological discharge, not just time away, not just sleep. The authors outline evidence-based ways to complete the stress cycle, and none of them involve productivity hacks. They include things like physical movement, deep breathing exercises, social connection, and emotional expression. So let's talk about what this actually looks like in real physician lives. Movement, that one first. It's not exercise, it's stress discharge. You don't need to train for a marathon. Movement completes the stress cycle because it tells your body the threat has passed. The saber-toothed tiger isn't chasing us anymore. This can be as simple as a brief, brisk walk, a dance party in your kitchen, crank up the tunes and dance it out when you get home from work, stretching, or anything really that raises your heart rate briefly. The key to this is you're not necessarily working on your fitness with this, although that's certainly something that you can do and it serves two benefits, right? But the key to this is signaling to your body that you're safe, that it's okay to feel what you feel. You're not running away from anything anymore. And many women physicians struggle with this because movement feels optional or selfish after a long day of caring for others and then coming home to work the second shift in which we are expected to continue to care for others. But from a biological standpoint, it's not selfish. It's medicine. It's necessary. The next one on the list is breath work. Breathwork is the fastest way to change your state, and it's one of the simplest tools. Long exhales activate your parasympathetic nervous system. And I'm not telling you guys anything you don't already know. I'm talking to physicians here, right? You need to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So try this. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Just a few rounds of this. Hand over heart while you do it is even better because it releases oxytocin. This isn't mindfulness as some sort of moral virtue. It's basic nervous system regulation. You're not calming down because you're being good. You're changing your physiology, and it's a necessity to regulate your nervous system. The next one on the list is connection, being seen without performing. The stress cycle completes faster in connection, not venting endlessly, not problem solving, but being seen and understood. This can be something like a colleague who gets it, who listens and says, "That patient was lucky to have you today." A partner who listens without trying to fix things. I mean, when I'm having a bad day, my husband will often say, "Do you want me to listen or do you want me to tell you how to solve it?" And most of the time, the answer is, "I want you to listen." A coach can do this for you. Physician coaches are awesome because we understand exactly what you're going through. We've been there. It can be a close friend who really sees you. So again, this is actually where coaching can be helpful, not to fix you because you don't need fixing, but to help you notice patterns and build stress completion into your real physician life. Many women physicians feel lonely even when they're surrounded by people because they're always holding it together and they don't think anybody really understands what they're going through. Connection requires dropping the armor, even briefly, and physicians who are coaches can create a safe space with someone who gets it for you to do that. Next one on the list is emotional expression, letting it out without judgment. It's another radical idea from the book. Emotions are tunnels. You don't get rid of them by avoiding them. You get through them by allowing them. And if you're listening to this thinking, "I don't have access to my emotions right now," that's okay too. Emotional numbness is also part of the stress response. But when you feel ready, when you feel safe to try to access your emotions, sit with that emotion you're feeling. Name it. Feel where it sits in your body. What color is it? Is it soft or is it prickly? Cry if you feel like crying. Crying doesn't last forever. It may make some people around you uncomfortable, but it's actually a huge release. It's a way to complete the stress cycle. And I can't remember if it's in this book or somewhere else that I heard that when people hear devastating news, they've actually done studies on how long they sit and cry over it. And usually it's about 15 to 20 minutes max. Not that you won't ever cry again, but the stress relief happens in just a few minutes. One of the things I learned in coach training that I still tell myself all the time is that there is no emotion that I can't sit and feel and process and move through. It's just a vibration in your body. It may be uncomfortable, but it won't last forever. Emotions like anger, grief, disappointment, they're not signs you're failing. They're signs that your body is trying to complete something. When emotions are suppressed, the stress stays trapped. The stress cycle isn't completed, and you're stuck in the tunnel of that emotion. The physiologic response just stays in you and builds. So the problem with burnout is not that you can't handle stress. Let me say this clearly. You're not burned out because you can't handle stressors. You're burned out because the stress is unrelenting, because the system rewards endurance, not recovery. It never teaches us how to recover. And because you were never taught to close the loop, to complete the stress cycle. Burnout is a systems problem with biological consequences. And yet, women physicians are handed individual solutions. Things like sleep more, meditate more, be grateful, practice resilience. And all those things are tools, but they're incomplete answers. It's a system problem that we feel in our bodies. The real question burnout asks is this: not how do I survive this, but what kind of life allows my body to feel safe? Sometimes that means changing roles, reducing your clinical time, setting firmer boundaries, and letting go of identities built on self-sacrifice. And none of those decisions are failures. They're acts of wisdom. So the reflection that I'm going to leave you for this week is this. Ask yourself, how does stress show up in my body? What signals does my body give me that I tend to ignore? For me personally, when I start to feel my left shoulder feel tight and I have to stretch it out, I know I need to move or sing or do something to relieve stress because that's where I carry mine. Where do you feel it in your body? Learn what that signal feels like. And then ask yourself, what helps me discharge my stress? Even a little. And this question takes a little courage. Where am I asking my body to tolerate what my values quietly resist? You don't need to fix anything today. Just notice. And then make a plan to complete your stress cycle regularly. In closing, burnout is not a personal deficiency. It's a predictable response to chronic stress without completion. Your body is not betraying you, it's communicating to you. And learning to listen without judgment may be the most compassionate thing you do for yourself. Thanks for being here with me this week, and I'll see you next time on the Navigating Possibility podcast.